Hello, I'm Neil Elliott. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a priest and regional dean in the Kootenays, and I'm also the National Church's statistics and research person. And I'm here to tell you, briefly as I can, about the effect that COVID is having on Kootenay Diocese. You will know what's happening in your area, but you may not know what's happening in terms of the bigger picture. So, the first thing that's happened is there has been a pivot to online services. And I'm sure everybody knows about this, but you may not realise how amazing it is that we pivoted so quickly. Within a few weeks of the lockdown from COVID in mid-March, most churches had some form of online service. This is the bulletin from my church's service. We went to putting out an online service which used a PDF and had links to hymns and to my sermon. Other people went for Zoom services or YouTube pre-recorded services. The move to online was about breaking down barriers of distance and time. Last year at Easter we had an online service from the cathedral which everybody across the diocese was able to tune into. The first time we've been able to do that. And COVID has meant that people are able to see services from far, far away. And it's not just big churches like the cathedral, but small churches like St John's Fruitvale have been having a Zoom service with people participating in it from across the country and even across the world. The breaking of barriers of distance and time has meant that people have been able to participate in Zoom meetings from a wide area. I've become the regional dean for the East Kootenays as well as for the West Kootenay, and I have people from Golden who are participating in our meetings, which is a 6 or 7 hour drive away. And this has given new hope to small churches. St Paul's Golden are able to connect in to services from St Andrews in the Mission or from Fernie, and they're able to take their services at a time that they would like. People who are able to view pre-recorded services at different times of the day or different days of the week. There is a new sense of hope in many places that they have a future for their community. One of the challenges of COVID has been the Eucharist. Some churches have had to manage without Eucharist for well over a year now, and that's created a real stress and some real questions. We've had to think about what Eucharist means in new ways. The National Church has released a document looking at the possibilities of virtual Eucharist and spiritual Eucharist, looking at how other churches are dealing with that. It is a new era for us. And as well as thinking about the Eucharist, there have been other new forms of liturgy becoming popular. Our Bishop Lynn, has been running a Compline service which has run every evening for all of the time of COVID, either with Bishop Lynn or another one of our leaders. And that's been very popular. And it's not just here, there are many other churches around the country and around the world where that daily service has suddenly become popular. And there are many other kinds of change and creativity which churches are having to and wanting to adopt. In my own church, we realised that the young people weren't well served by online services because they were doing that all the time at school. So when we were able, we had outdoor services, going for a hike in the woods, whether it was raining or snowy, whatever. We went out on a Sunday afternoon and we had a hike with some spiritual input that we called Wild Church. I've already mentioned St John's Fruitvale. They were kind of pioneers in our area of a church that met not in a building, they sold their building, but met on people's patios and decks, in people's gardens. And here they are gathering for their worship. As well as moving our services online, we've moved our finances online. People are starting to get online donations. And you can see this. This is from New Westminster Cathedral using two different types of online financial collection. Using PayPal. Who would have thought the church would be doing that? COVID has pushed us forward. One of the problems of COVID has been the way that it's pushed new technical demands onto the clergy. And some clergy have been very willing and able to step up to that. This is Canon Chris Harwood-Jones, who is one of the most technically able of our clergy. Others have not been able to step up. It's not part of their skill set, even though they can be brilliant priests or leaders in other ways. And that's been a real challenge. And it's a challenge when clergy become the centre again because of their technical abilities. Many of us feel that COVID has stolen our toolbox. Our toolbox was about in-person meetings, one-to-one meetings for counselling, meetings where we gathered committees and led people through committees, services where we had honed our in-person skills of leading people into God's presence. And all of that was taken away through COVID. We've had to learn new skills and develop a new toolbox of skills. And that has been a real challenge for us. And so we are starting to think now of the future, the new normal. And many people are saying that the new normal is one where we are going to have hybrid services, both in-person services and online services. And that creates lots of opportunities for us, but it also creates challenges. The challenge to do a good online service and a good in-person service. And those two things have different demands because the space is different. A liturgy that works for a church building may well not work online. And we have to make extra demands of ourselves in order to produce both of those kinds of service. As we look forward into that future, there are many things that we don't know. We don't know what is going to happen to our congregation sizes. We don't know what's going to happen to our finances. But one of the important things is that we don't know how people are feeling about these different options. And we need your opinions. We need your thinking. There is an online survey that you can do called the Coronavirus Church and You Survey. It's an international survey that is run from England. There is a particularly Canadian route through that survey. I wrote about this in the Anglican Journal, which came out in May. And I would very much appreciate it if you could tell us your opinions through that survey. I want to end with a quote from Winston Churchill in the Second World War: "Never waste a good crisis." A good crisis sounds like an oxymoron, but there are good aspects to the crisis that we are facing, good reactions in spite of all the tragedies, the deaths, the illness, the people whose livelihoods have been destroyed. In all of that, God has still enabled us to bring good things out of that crisis. Our bishop said, "COVID has changed the church more in 6 months than I expected to in 6 years." We're at a point where we have to change. It's not change for its own sake. It's change because we need to change. COVID has moved us forward, and my hope and prayer is that the changes we will make will be changes that are guided by God and take our church into the future.